Hi, welcome to this special series of Hurricane Helene. For the next few episodes, I have invited some industry people from the world of insurance, from reinsurance, modeling, agency president, the people who are serving the general public. And we just want to bring you the view of what is it like from the insurance industry perspective to see a uncommon natural disaster, catastrophic event at this magnitude. And in my opinion, this event will change a few things in the insurance industry of how we do things and how it's going to be handled in the future. So we're going to invite guests come on the show and just really have a deeper discussion of how this event will impact general public and also the insurance industry. So we thank you for coming on the show. Hi, welcome to this special episode of Hurricane Helene podcast. And today we have a special guest, Shaun Markwardt. Did I say that right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on, Shaun. And we kind of find each other by accident, or maybe not accident, but your wife heard one of our first episode, and then she recommended you to reach out to me.
Yes, she saw the post on Facebook from you and sent that to me. So I reached out to you to see how I can help.
Awesome. Well, this episode is about covering what just happened and what it is like from an insurance perspective. So, my background's in insurance, and I'm glad Shaun is able to make it to this episode. And Shaun, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience about your background and what do you do? And also, what are you exactly doing today? And you're recording this podcast from your car right now because you're not home.
That's correct. Yes, most of my career, I began my career in 2002 in the insurance industry as an insurance adjuster. And I worked for a few different insurance companies as a W-2. Then I became an independent adjuster in the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. In 2022, when I was working Hurricane Ian, I discovered what I perceived to be the insurance company that I was working with. I perceived them to be committing insurer fraud. Therefore, I publicly blew the whistle because I was I can't tolerate that type of thing. And now, as of 2022, I am a public adjuster, which means that I represent policyholders on commercial and residential policies whenever they need to file an insurance claim with their insurance company to ensure that the claim is covered properly and the insured is compensated properly. So now I work for the insured.
Okay, Shaun, I'm going to pause for 1 second and just unpack that real quick for our audience. Can you give to our audience the difference between public adjuster and third-party adjuster and private adjuster? And there's so many terms, right? Like, can you give the breakdown of how different version of adjuster works and who are they representing and who pay them?
Absolutely. I'll begin with the staff adjuster. That is an insurance adjuster that's a full-time employee. That's a W-2 employee that works directly for a specific insurance company. Then there are independent adjusters who receive claim assignments from a variety of different insurance companies through an independent adjusting firm. So as a staff adjuster, you're paid directly by the insurance company. And then typically the fee for your compensation as an independent adjuster is fee based. And that comes from the independent adjusting firm who receives payment from their client, which is the insurance company. Then there is public adjuster, and which is what I am now, and I work directly for the policyholder, and my fee is contingency based on the amount of the recovery that we are able to receive for the policyholder. So a public adjuster works for the homeowner or business owner instead of the insurance company.
Gotcha. And is this the same in every state? Consumer have the right to use public adjuster private adjuster? I mean, are they the same in every state, or is it by state law?
Well, different states are regulated differently. Some states do not license public adjusters. For example, Alabama, um, you're not allowed to work as a public adjuster. And I believe Arkansas, and I'm not sure of any other states. There may or may not be other states that do not allow them, but by and large, most states do allow public adjusters. And some states are not regulated with regards to the fee that public adjusters are charge, but some states are regulated as to how much the fee or how much a public adjuster can charge. And the only state that is not contingency based is Louisiana. Louisiana is an hourly rate. You're not allowed to charge a contingency in Louisiana.
Gotcha. And of course, there is always a difference of what your price is, right? Of what the damage is that you assess and what the insurance carrier is. They're like contrasts of interest, right? So what happens when there's two parties with complete different interests? Is there a third party mediator step in and then say, hey, one's at 100,000, one's at 50,000, we need to be at 75,000? How does that work?
There is a provision in insurance policies called the appraisal clause. And of course, when I say appraisal, the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is real estate appraisal, but it's completely different. In speaking in general terms, the appraisal clause says something to the effect of, if you and we do not agree on the amount of loss, then either side can provide a written demand for appraisal. So what that means is that the homeowner would hire an appraiser, and it's usually either hourly or flat fee that's not contingency based, and then the insurance company would hire their appraiser. It's a much more cost-effective form of alternative dispute resolution, right? So the two appraisers get together and try to work it out. If they are unable to work out what the differences are, then they will engage what's called an umpire, and the umpire decides what the amount of loss should be. So that is a form of alternative dispute resolution. What I do as a public adjuster, I am not an attorney. I don't want to pretend like I'm one or or anything else, right? However, like an attorney, I have to prove the damages and fulfill the insured's duties after a loss. So after a loss occurred, for example, Hurricane Helene, I'm in Valdosta, Georgia right now, and there are several things listed in a policy that most policyholders are not familiar with, because most people don't read their full policy, which I don't blame them, because it's a lot of legal jargon, etc. But you have to protect your property from further damage. Sometimes insurance companies require you to submit what's called a proof of loss, etc., and you have to cooperate with the claim investigation, etc. So as a public adjuster, that's my role, is to make certain that the duties after the loss are fulfilled and to prove the damages.
How do people find public adjusters, like insured? Because usually, like whenever a claim happens, they just call their insurance company, right?
Yes, they do. There are different parts of the country that are more that are more knowledgeable when it comes to public adjusting. For example, Florida, because there's so many public adjusters in the state of Florida, most people know what public adjusters are. But where I live in Tennessee, public adjusters are not as prevalent. Okay, so usually I don't get a phone call until they're having a serious problem with their insurance claim. And to find that, you can do one of two things. You can either reach out to that particular state's Department of Insurance. You can also Google public adjusters in whatever town or state that you are, etc. Almost all of my business is referral. Just people that have worked with me before or in my company, then they'll refer me.
What are the most common claim you handle?
Storm claims.
We're talking about Hurricane Helene type of storms, or are we talking about even smaller, like hail damage type of storms?
Yes, smaller hail damage storms, of course, hurricanes, tornadoes, hail, wind, and the reason why is because that is storm claims are what are reported most in our country are storm claims. But of course, I handle fire losses, water damages, uh, you name it. I do it as long as there's coverage for it under the policy. I'm not going to make the policy say something it doesn't, right? So sometimes there are times where I have to explain to somebody and have a difficult conversation that I'm sorry, this is just something that's not covered. But most of the time, it is.
In the United States, how many public adjusters do you think there are?
I really couldn't tell you. I don't think there's a lot more insurance adjusters that work for insurance companies than there are public adjusters. But it's really geographical. So, like in Florida, there's a lot of public adjusters. I don't know how many there are. But like in South Carolina or North Carolina, I think there's like less than 200. So there's not as many in a place like Tennessee. But if you go to a place like Philadelphia, there's a lot of them. So it just kind of depends.
Gotcha. Does it prolong the process? How do you view that? I mean,
Yeah. Not necessarily, but what I tell people all the time whenever I'm first getting to know them and introducing myself and explaining it, I explain to people that I would rather you know get it right and it take a little bit longer than to not get it right and have it done quickly.
gotcha. When Hurricane Helene happened and you're sitting at home watching the news, you knew you were going to be busy. Has it really been just blowing up?
Absolutely, I got down to Valdosta um, last night, and I'm working with another public adjuster who reached out to me, and we have about 150 claims right now. But I suspect it's going to increase a lot more than that too.
So walk me through after we get off the podcast and you step out of your car, right? What is your steps? I mean, what does your day look like? Can you walk me through that?
Sure. Uh, Absolutely. Let me start with what happened last night. Okay. Because from an insurance perspective, safety is the number one concern. I had a reservation at a hotel in Valdosta, and I arrived last night. And first of all, there was nobody at the front desk, and it was locked. Then I found somebody who knew somebody that worked there, so they came over, and he says, "I'm sorry, we don't have any vacancy." And I said, "Well, okay, I have a reservation." He's like, "I'm sorry, man, we're all booked up." So I slept in my truck last night because I looked in Valdosta and there was absolutely nowhere that I was able to find VRBO, Airbnb, any hotel, etc., that was available. So I slept in my truck, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, I was woken up by somebody knocking at my door who works at the truck stop where I was staying at, and I asked him what he needed because I didn't know who he was and I didn't even know he worked there. And he told me that just want to let you know that there's a stalker in the active stalker in the area, and the police are currently looking for him. So I would recommend you go towards the front because I don't have cameras back here where you're parked, etc. So safety is a big deal. Sometimes catastrophes bring out the best in people, but it can also bring out the worst in some people, right? Um, so after getting about 30 to 60 minutes of sleep, I went into the truck stop and I changed my clothes, and then I started going to these properties, and it's 10:15, and I've completed 2 inspections so far. And I'm going to do inspections until it gets dark where I can't see outside, and then I'll spend a significant amount of my evening and night, writing estimates for the damages and preparing the files to send to the insurance companies.
When you're going through your steps, are these homeowners there meeting you there, or are they just calling you, texting you?
Well, in this particular case, most of these are from a client who has a significant amount of properties in this town. So the damage is so bad to these properties that they're not the homes are not livable. So the tenants are not there. However, I'm able to access everything that I need to in order to perform a thorough inspection. But normally,
And
if I'm meeting with with an actual homeowner that has a house or a place of business, then yes, they're almost always there.
can you describe to us what you're seeing down in Georgia?
Yes, like I said, I'm in Valdosta, and the damage is significant. The first house that I went to had two very large trees that had fallen on it, creating a significant amount of structural damage to it. On the second house, it was the same situation. It was very, very bad, and also a significant amount of interior damage. They haven't had a lot of power here for very long. It was finally restored recently, real recently.
When you put in your report, Helene got to be a little bit different than everything else due to the massive size of the impacted areas. How much is put into consideration the time it would to restore these homes? Because I'm sure like there's no contractors around just to come in here and fix these houses because there's so much to fix.
Right. Yeah. Typically, an insurance policy will allow a certain amount of time after the last actual cash value payment is issued. However, my experience has shown is that as long as you request additional time before that time runs, sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's a year, but you can request additional time and make certain that you receive a response. And my experience has been is that almost all adjusters do not have an issue with extending time in order to get the homes repaired.
Shaun, I'm not going to hold you up. You got a very, very busy day ahead of you. If you can send us some videos, we'd love to put up any videos that you have
Okay.
from this event. So I appreciate you all there doing the good things for these people, for these insured. And we're looking forward to having you back on the podcast again, with multiple hurricane coming up with Milton and then the one following week.
Yes,
Just be safe out there.
Yeah, Milton just exploded to a Category 4, and our thoughts and prayers are with those in Florida, and especially the Tampa area, which is where we think that it's going to hit. And if it does what they say it's going to do, that it's going to be truly catastrophic.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, we need to be praying for the folks in Tampa, and thank you very much for jumping on this podcast. And
thank you so much
for having me. I was able to put a little light on the public adjuster world.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Shaun.